Alright, so we have our two branches up. I'm going to do npm start to start the server, do npm start here to start up the React application, wait for both those to boot up. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code in my front end here. And I like to have my setup where I have my window here and then code in the middle. Cool. Alright, I think I had set up maybe a, let's go a little close, 30,000. I think I set up maybe a sign up / login page. If we go to routes, we can see we got home, got register. Register looks like it has some stuff in it. State, unexpected token is equal sign. I don't know why ESLint doesn't like that. Maybe because we have, this is like a static. So does that help it? Don't think it does. Okay, that's fine. We can keep it as is. So let's hook up the register. I don't think we had that complete. So we're going to hook it up with GraphQL now and actually submit this to our database. So /register. So username, email, password, submit. And I believe right now it should just, I type these guys in, it should go to console. So Bob at bob.com, Bob. Submit, and it does. So now I want to change it so it goes, so here's our on submit here, these are our things, this let's say .fields. I want to actually send those to our GraphQL server. So I'm going to create a new folder called mutations and put my mutations in there. Does that make sense? I'm trying to decide right now whether I want to like put my GraphQL in the same location as my components or put it somewhere else. I think I'm going to put it somewhere else. I'm going to put in mutations for now. I might change this later. And then we'll do index.js. And then in here we'll import GraphQL tag or GQL from Apollo. Actually, it's React Apollo, I believe it's called. And we're going to export const register. And then here's where we actually put the GraphQL we want to execute when we run the form. So to figure out what I want, I'm actually just going to go to graphical and go to the graphical for my server. And this will let me format what I want my GraphQL mutation to be. So register, I want a username to be, so we're going to use variables. So we'll have here username, it'll be $sign at the front. All GraphQL variables start with $signs. So we have string, I'm going to have an email, and the bang sign at the end here says it's a required field. So we need to have these. Password, which is also a string. And then lastly is admin. And this should be actually not something we want to pass through here. Is setting the admin something only I want to be able to do? So at least for now. So I'm not going to allow the ability to register as an admin. So okay, so this is, we're setting the username to the username variable, email to the email variable, and password to the password variable. We can go ahead and run this and see if it craps on us. Required string was not provided. Okay, this is good. It's okay we got an error here because we don't have any of the variables. We can go ahead and paste these in here. So now we can actually register users using this mutation. And then we just need to pass in the variables. So in our register here, instead of exporting default, I can import GraphQL from React Apollo. and then I can import register from my mutations. All right, and then at the bottom, I'm actually going to just export default GraphQL, passing in my register mutation, and then the component, which is called register. So this actually takes the register mutation, puts it in the register component, that way I can call it. So now I can say this dot props dot mutate, and then variables is equal to this dot state dot fields. And the way I made it is so the names here line up with the variables, so I don't even have to change anything. I can just put it in right here. And I like to make this an async function. And what we can do is we can say const user, we can await it, and then we can console log the user. Now we're only expecting the, if we go back to our GraphQL, we're only grabbing the ID back, just so we can see. Let's grab the username and email as well. So okay, I'm going to save this. Register looks good now. I want to go ahead and run this. And I actually don't know if our backend is set up to handle this. I don't remember if it is or not. So we're going to run this mutation, see what happens. So run submit, bad request, cannot query field email on type user. All right, so this is not a front-end problem. This is a backend problem. So here is baklava. I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code in this folder. And let's see if we can figure out what's going on. So let's put that here. And I'm going to close this so we don't have two Visual Studio Codes running at once. All right. So this is going to be in our resolvers. This is where the problem is going to be. So index and our resolvers. And here is our register. Where is our register? Okay, here's register. So from args, we're picking username and is admin. We don't have to worry about is admin. And I'm actually going to just go to the schema real quick. And in the login, not login, register. Where's register? Here we go. I'm going to remove is admin. I don't want to be able to set that property there. By default, it should be false and you can't set it. Okay, so user, we picked username. For local auth, we're picking the email and password. Password promise, we're creating the, okay, so what's happening right here is I'm getting the promise for hashing the password and creating the user at the same time. So then we're promising both of those so they run concurrently. Then we're getting the local password, and then we're saving that. And the reason why you'll notice I have basically I'm creating two objects, local auth and user. The reason for that is I'm generalizing it so later I can do Facebook auth and some other OAuth stuff. Okay, so user ID here is going to be created user.id. And guys, I actually, in my models, I think, was I using underscores? Yeah, I don't want to use underscores for these things anymore because I want it to directly match up with what my JavaScript is. And in my JavaScript, I never use underscores. So I'm going to rename all these table thingies. It kind of makes PostgreSQL wonky because you have to do quotations around stuff, but that's okay. As long as it's better for it to match up directly with the, what's it called, JavaScript code itself. Okay, so we have that, and then board looks good. So I'm just checking, these are all my database models, making sure my database models are all camel case instead of snake case. And they are, that's good, is admin. So I just made changes to my database. So I want to rebuild the tables. So to do that, what I can do is I can either drop the database, or there's a cool trick that someone just showed me. SQLize.sync, I can do force equal true, and when my server is going to reload and rerun, and when it reloads and reruns, it actually will drop the database and remake it for me, and then it's good. And I can take this off because I don't want it to force every time, just when I make changes. Okay, so my board, my resolver looks pretty good here. I want to run it one more time and see exactly what the error is that I'm getting. We might have actually solved the error, because cannot query field email on type user. We're not even querying the type email here, I don't think. I don't see it. So either registers is not getting called, or we're picking the email here. But yeah, let's rerun this. Make sure we'll actually get the exact line that's causing the error. So bob.com, Bob, go ahead and submit. So bad request still, cool. So this is an Apollo error. I'm gonna go to my backend here, and actually undefined backend is not getting an error. So let's look again what's going on. Uncaught error, GraphQL cannot query field email on type user. Oh, I know what the problem is. I'll show you guys. So in my schema here, for user, there is no email, but then I was looking for email. So let's add email, which is a string. And now I think we should be able to get it if we're passing the email back. So bob@bob.com. And by the way, we're actually, I believe, creating the user. Yeah. So we're able to successfully register Bob. Nice. So what I want to do next is actually create a login page. So I just made some changes. So switch models from snake case to camel case, and we'll close this. So now we're going to go back and do more front-end things. I hate how my windows always switch. Oops. And then I have to go fix it again. Okay. So now we're going to create we actually can kind of copy our register page because it's almost the exact same for login. So now instead of we're not going to have a username field. They should already know. We're going to have login. We're going to get a login mutation. We can keep the on change. This we can keep as well, except here what we're going to get passed back is a token and refresh token. Well, actually, it's not. It's going to be. I'll show you what the response looks like. We're going to console it out because I believe it's like response.data the name of whatever your mutation is to actually get whatever it is. Well, you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. So get rid of username here. Okay. GraphQL register. Here it's going to be login and login. So our component's called login, our mutation's called login. Alright, cool beans. This looks good. So yeah, as you can see, this is how fast you can set things up, because register is the exact same in our mutation here. we can copy the mutation too because it's almost the exact same. It's going to be login. Here we're going to ask for a token and a refresh token, and we'll have an email and a password. Oops. And we'll not have a username variable. Okay. That looks good for our GraphQL. This will be our request we'll make when we submit the form. And now I just need to go back to my routes and create a new route. /login. And then we'll do the login one. Alright. And let's see what it doesn't like here. Parse error, imported unexpected token. I have no idea what this means. Not sure what ESLint's complaining about. I don't know what exactly this means. Import no name as default. Doing an export default here. Yeah, not sure. Alright, let's see if it works. And this is something, again, I'm not sure if the backend is set up to handle, but we're about to find out. So submit, get our object back, and cool, has our refresh token and our token. So this is data login. So in our response here, we can say data token refresh token. Actually, it's data, then it's login. Okay, this, see how there's so many different levels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the data out of this, and I'm going to say const token refresh token is equal to data.login. And then I'm going to store this in local storage. That way we can persist it and like keep the user logged in for a week or longer if they keep logging in. Or not if they keep logging in, if they keep using the website, then it'll automatically refresh, which we actually need to set up. But we'll do that in a moment. What I'm going to look for here is my application, local storage. I have tokens from past projects probably, so I'm going to refresh. And I'm going to try logging back in, doing a submit, and make sure this does go. It's local.set item. And you need to actually call the function. Okay, that's set item. Refresh. Alright, so bob at bob.com. And I push submit. Did it go through? It did. I don't see anything here. Network tab, it went through again. Oh, there we go. I forgot we're not console logging anything. So here it is. Our token's getting saved now. Cool. So now we're able to log in. We're able to sign up. So I create my user. I was able to sign up with that user, and this should be register. So what do I want to do next? Let's create a page where you can create boards. I think is what I want to do next. So let's go to Material UI and see if there's some good components we can use. So I'm going to create a new route here. Should we do this on the home page? Yeah, let's do like a kind of a home page view that has the stuff on it. Okay, So if I'm going to go over here to components, and I'm thinking something like a card view slash maybe a group of cards. I think there's something, a grid list I think it's called. Yeah, something like this maybe, but with cards. Let's see. Let's see if there's a card group. I don't know if it talked about it. Card actions, card media. What else is there? There's a list. I don't know what I want to use. I wanted to have like basically just like a list of cards. And it's, maybe I can, in my grid list, I can specify I want cards. No image tiles. No, you have to use grid tiles, it looks like. I mean, there's got to be a way to do a card group. There's no way there's not. What else would it be called? Chip is something else. Maybe just a list. And there'll be maybe a card list down here. No. Paper maybe? Paper. No. I mean, I can basically make my own list with cards, I suppose. We don't have to use an exact component. So let's get this card set up though. I'm going to import it. Our card's not going to have any type of images. So what's the name of this? Card example avatar. Yeah, I didn't like it because I didn't put the end on there. Okay. We don't have this picture that it has right here, so I'm gonna have to get rid of it. I think it has two pictures on it. Yeah, I don't have that and I don't have this. So card media you can get rid of. And avatar is going to be a no-no. And let's see this render on our application though. So this is on the home page, which is the index page. Okay. So what I'm thinking is we can put the title, text. I think this is pretty decent. And what I'm thinking is I can have lists of these. So maybe like a div. And maybe inside this div I have a class name. I was gonna say like maybe like column 1 or something, and have like columns. Have this column 1, this is column 2. I wanna style it so these are side by side. But I mean, these cards, I mean, this makes a decent card list, I suppose. Let's just have divs next to each other with like adding some margin. I think you can add margin with doing it like this. Margin bottom. See if that adds some. I think it does. Yeah, it does. Okay, so that looks nice. Adds a little space. So I guess I want to have a list, and then inside the list I'll have the board. So okay, let me look at what I have in Baklava, because I actually have in my models, it'll actually show. Vim models. So in board, I have board and then I have a suggestion. So suggestions are on boards. So coming back over here, this is going to be, each card is going to be a suggestion, and then there'll be boards with lists. So I think for now what I'll create is have one board with a bunch of suggestions. So should I just do one of these buttons to create them? Let's see, where are they? They're called fab buttons. Yeah, floating action buttons. So I guess I could add one of these. Style, we don't have to worry about style. Let's add the floating action button. And then we can have it let's make sure that I want to make sure I want them on the same div. The margin doesn't hit, of course. That's fine, I guess. And then we were just gonna have like a lot of divs. They're like gonna be stacked eventually. But here we will have floating action. What is content add? Oh, that's an icon. Yeah, we'll take that icon. We want to add it to ours too. And have our div here. I'm not sure how it renders the floating action because it kind of just like is floating. I'm not sure if it'll be at the bottom of the div or what. Okay. Now I want it on the right side. Oops. Is there a way to say whether you want it the left or the right side? Or I have to add my own style. Looks like I'm gonna have to add my own style, which is okay. And I need to make this scrollable. So I just want to make sure this automatically scrolls if I have a bunch of them. Okay, it does. But I also want this guy to be here, floating if there's more. So maybe I add it to the top. But then it's going to be up here. I actually don't know how this thing works. Because I basically want to give it an absolute, kind of absolute. Is used for frequently used. I guess we don't have to use this. It doesn't make as much sense on a website because we want to have like list. We could do it a different way. Okay. So for now, the only thing my suggestions are you know what? Since our suggestions are pretty simple, let's just switch this to a list. I think it'll work a lot smoother. And let's do, is there one? I like this. These are nice. And we can have like, okay, guys, I've just thought of how this is going to work. I've thought it out. Okay. So I'm gonna grab my mobile tear sheet. Is that what this thing is called? And then we have I guess this is what the so we have a divider. I mean, I don't need the tear part. Let's pick one without the tear. Or they all tear. They're actually all using the tear. I mean, that's fine. I'm not for the tear. I'm not against the tear. Just kind of there. And I also want this. this one because I want to add like little widgets in there. Actually, this is too complicated at first. We'll copy this one. Okay, so let's get all the material UI things. Content add mobile. Mobile tear sheet is not. I thought mobile tear sheet was a component for material UI. Is it not? They want me to create this little. What are these guys? Same thing here. Mobile tear sheet. Yep, mobile tear sheet. I could have sworn I've seen this. Maybe it's under. It's not paper. Just go one by one through these things. Bottom nav, no. I know there exists a divider, drawer, icons, list, menu. There's gotta be like a little piece of paper thing. Tabs, table, header, stepper. I'm gonna turn on the light. I'll be right back. It's a shame. I mean, it's basically this paper thing with a little crunchy crunch. I hate how Material UI it has all these examples, but then I have to create this stupid little mobile tear. Okay. Is there a search? Let's see. Material UI mobile tear. Yeah, let's go to Stack Overflow. They usually are the most helpful. By all means, copy from one of the doc sites. It's just, oh, it's an image. Images, bottom, tear, SVG. So we would need to then get that. Okay, I am actually just like annoyed at Material UI right now and kind of want to pivot because I don't want to make this. I'm gonna create the list, see what the list looks like. If the list looks ugly without this mobile tear thing, then I'm pivoting to semantic UI because I do not want to deal with the UI. I just want to code this up and I want to use a framework that handles that for me. So let's copy the list. We only need one list for now. List item. This looks all good. Okay. This is not my favorite, but and then what I want. So this is what I'm imagining, guys. I'm just gonna keep that, by the way. I'm like happy enough with it. So we want text field. I can always come back and change what the UI of it looks like slightly. And copy some of this. Oh, I copied that and then I deleted something, so then I lost the copy. Okay, copy. So the name is going to be suggestion, hint text, suggestion, suggestion. Value is going to be, we don't have to worry about the value for now. On change, don't have to worry about that for now. Okay. and we want this to be full width too. So what I imagine is you type your suggestion here. So ABC, hit enter, and then it pops down here. That's it. So that's what I'm going to code up right now. I'm going to create a new component for this. It's going to be called board.js. So board is actually not really a route, it's more of a component. So I'm going to create a new folder called components and move board to components. And I'm actually just going to copy home, paste it in board because this is really board stuff. Actually, I should have also gone React. So, and then what I'll do is I'll just render a board on the home screen. And the board you should render, you should pass in board ID, and we'll render board with board ID 1. And import board from up components / board. Okie dokie, so we have board here. We're going to pass in the board ID so we know what board to grab from the database. And cool. This is the actual UI of it. We're going to make this a React class. So class React from, this should be called board.react. So board from react.component. Then we'll have our render function. Return. You can put that there. And we'll get rid of our semicolon that's messing stuff up. Can shed one of these as well. And then state here is going to be suggestion. So as they're typing it, and so we'll say this value is equal to this state.suggestion, and then on change for this is going to be, you can say this set state. You know what? Actually, let's just copy and paste the on change. Actually, no, because our on change there uses fields. That's fine. This will be suggestion and e.target.value. Cool. And why are you being weird? Expected semicolon. Oh, this extends, not from. Okay. We're also going to import. Okay, so here we're going to create a new file. We're going to create a suggestion.js. And then import suggestion from suggestion. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to create a suggestion component, and that's going to be basically what our list is here. And what I'm going to render here is going to be called getBoard. Yeah, so we'll call it getBoard. So this is the GraphQL call I'm about to do. Haven't hooked any of this stuff up, but we're going to. So in the props, I'm going to get past the data, which is going to be getBoard data, which is going to be an array, and the board is going to have like a name and stuff. So the data that we want from this, and maybe we should come up here and do const name, comma, suggestions is equal to this dot props dot get board. Alright, so I'm going to show the name here just as an h1. And then our list here, we're going to say suggestions.map. And then here's going to be our suggestion. And we're going to actually render a suggestion component passing in, well, set a key of x.id, and then the actual suggestion is going to be that. Okay. So this looks good. So as we're typing, nice. And then we need to make this a form. And then when they on submit, we're going to do stuff. Form. So there's going to be a lot of GraphQL on this page. So import GraphQL from React Apollo. And then, so we're going to do a mutation whenever we type out this. And this mutation is going to update the suggestions here, which will trigger a query. And each suggestion will be stuff too. I'm going to create the suggestion component real quick because this is really basic, and this will from React, and this will get rid of one of our dependencies that we need to create. So export default. So one of what we're expecting from being passed as a prop is the suggestion, and that's where we actually just create a list item, I believe. Yep. And we're going to get that from list. And we don't need a list here. And primary text is going to be suggestion. Do we need an ID? No, but we need a name, I believe. I think it's called text. So why don't we just render the text as the primary text? Okay. And what's going on here? Suggestions is missing prop type validation. That's fine for now. Maybe we'll add prop type validation later. But alright, so our suggestion right now is only a list item with showing the primary text wherever the text is. Alright, we're also going to grab compose here because we're going to do a mutation and a query. So I'm going to do queries. And oops, I meant to make this a folder. So this is going to be all our GraphQL queries. Queries. Index.js. Import GQL from GraphQL. Okay. So I'm going to first write the mutation out. And the mutation is to create a suggestion. I actually don't know if the mutation here, if we have in the backend yet. We'll see when we type this. Create suggestion, creator ID, text, board ID. Yeah, that's not exactly what I want. So we're going to have to edit some backend stuff. I think all of this needs some backend stuff. The board needs some backend stuff. Because, okay, so there's two queries we want to do. We want to query to get the React Apollo. Sorry, not React Apollo. We want to query to get the suggestions for a board. Get the data for a board. This is going to be one GraphQL query, get board. And we're going to do more queries when we on submit here. Actually, this will be a mutation, not a query. Okay. I'm going to pop up Visual Studio Code for the backend and just code up the mutations / queries that we need to get these guys set up. And actually, no, I said I was going to do this. I want to actually finish the front end first. And the reason for that is I want to set up a library called join monster, and that'll take some work. It won't take a lot of work, but it'll take a little bit. So I want to get the front end all done before I switch over to that. So, okay. Queries. So we're going to have a query here called export const getBoard. I don't know exactly what the GraphQL is going to look like for this yet, so I'm just going to leave it blank. And then we'll come back and fill this in when we actually do the join query like I was talking about. The mutation here, oops, okay, yeah. I know what the mutation is kind of, so I can kind of write it out, and then we're going to have to change it later in the backend. So create suggestion. So this mutation just requires some text and the board ID. The text is going to be a string, board ID is going to be an int, and this is the ID of the board that we want to add the suggestion to. And here we're going to actually create suggestion, and then text being text, and then board ID, board ID. And we'll just grab the ID, that's fine. So this is actually not implemented in our backend yet, but we will add that soon. We're about to do a decent amount of backend work very, very soon here. Should be, oh, this should be a React Apollo. Alright, so suggestion's good, this is board. Okay, so let's actually call the all the GraphQL stuff. So we have here our board. We're going to export default compose, and in our compose here we're going to get all the GraphQL that we need, and then we're going to call it on our component. Our component is called board, so we'll type board here. And then here we'll have GraphQL and it one more time. The tooth, I need to do get board, and the other one was for create board. So import get board from up queries, and then create suggestion from mutations. Okay, so these are the two GraphQL things we want to run on this component. I added them here, and then I'm adding them to our component here. So we're importing, then adding it to the component. Get board is going to just flow right in here, and actually get board needs to be called with some props that we get from when we call it. So our home, you'll notice how we're passing a board ID. We need to actually use that board ID to make our GraphQL query. So I forget how I do this. Apollo client, we'll look it up. But here we can go ahead and do our on submit. So when this is submitted, we're going to call this dot mutate, and actually we're going to need to create a mutation function because we're going to do some fancy stuff. Well, not fancy stuff, but just some stuff. So we're going to do an update in it, so it's going to be a little bit more than just on submit. Oops. On submit. Okay. So on submit, we're going to call this dot on submit. Alright, and then in our on submit function, we're going to call const response, I cannot spell today, response is equal to await this dot mutate, passing in variables, and I'm actually going to rename my, well, you know what, that's fine. We don't have to rename it. So text is the variable, is one variable, and that's going to be this dot state dot suggestion, and the other one is the board ID, which we're getting passed from the props. And then here I need to make this async because we're using await. All right, that's good. Pop in over here. I need to look up how to do this too. We need to do an update here because we just got a new suggestion. Okie dokie, so what are we looking for? This is for queries that require props. Did you talk about it? Is it here? Compute, yeah, computing from props. Options, yeah. So we're going to copy that, do it down here. Okay, so the prop that we need is the board ID, and we actually just pass that right in. And that's it. And I think something else is broken here, else something would have formatted. Oh, there we go. Form is now good. Must have a parent. Yep. I think it's just lagging. That's why that ESLint has not gone away. And now for mutate here, we actually want to update that. So they have an optimistic UI. We're going to do, I don't know if I want to do optimistic UI or not. I guess I might as well add it because I'm going to do an update anyway. Makes it a little bit snappier. For those of you that don't know what optimistic UI is, and let me just make sure this is in the right place. Nope, it's not in the right place. You put this in here. There we go. What optimistic UI does, or optimistic response it's called here, is before it actually even gets sent to the server, it pretends like the server said yes, and your UI responds and shows it. And this will make more sense when you see it. It'll just immediately pop up on the screen before the server even like gets a chance to like create the suggestion. It just assumes the suggestion is good. So here, what I like to do is we'll need an ID. I just set the ID to -1. We don't need created at. What is this field? Content. Us will have text, which we can get from this .state.suggestion. Type name, this is a suggestion. And submit comment, this is called, what's our mutation called? Create suggestion. Alright, so when this is fired off, we're going to pass this. It's going to go to our update function. Here it's going to be create suggestion. I don't need any of these comments. So, okay. So our query is get board that we're going to be updating. So we're going to say data dot, I don't even think I have to do data. I think it's just, actually no, it'll be sections, and we're pushing create suggestion. And we're gonna get a small, I think we're gonna get a small error because create suggestion here is getting mirrored here, the name. But maybe the scope here should take effect. Okay, that's it. I'm not sure if I wrote this update quite right. I think it's close to right. This optimistic UI and this update will give us errors if we don't do it right, and that's okay. But what the optimistic response and update do here is when actually, you can't see it now, but if it let us, we're typing in our form, when we hit enter, it'll actually update the UI afterwards. So cool stuff there. So our update is good here. We're getting the data here. I think we just need to fix the backend now. Create board is not defined in components board. I'm not sure what create board is. There should be nothing called create board. Create board. That should be create suggestion. Now let's see. We should still have errors, but we shouldn't have that error. Okay, that's what I was expecting the error to be. So let's do some backend work, guys. So what I'm gonna add to our project real quick is something called join monster. So this is something that someone recently showed me, actually someone that watches my YouTube videos. What it does is it only selects the fields that you need from your database, so you're not selecting all of them. And it also helps when you're doing multiple nested GraphQL statements for a query. It does one join. And you can see right here they have a great example of how it works. So you see how this query here, it turns that query into this statement. You see how it adds inner joins and stuff? So pretty cool. Or not inner joins, left join. So it talks about why. I recommend taking a look at this page if you're interested in it. It's very informative. So we're going to be using join monster, and since we're using Apollo, join monster Apollo, we have to do something extra because they don't support Apollo out of the box, but there is a project that does fix it for us. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and add both of these. Join monster GraphQL tools. Yeah. And join monster. So coming over here to backend, doing add, join that, and then join monster to install both of them. And this will basically, any queries that we write, we're going to do through join monster. So we have queries here. All users, me, we don't care about any of these. We're going to say get board, and we're going to pass in the board ID, which is an int, and what we pass back is a board. Now the board might be null because if they give us a bad board ID. And then board has a name, owner, suggestions. Cool. So this get board we're going to create with join monster. So first we need to set up join monster. And using join monster is pretty much a replacement for data loader. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and remove data loader from this project. So by data loader and remove data loader here. So come back over here, do yarn remove data loader. So we no longer have that dependency. Okay. So now we need to do this GraphQL tools adapter thing where you can copy this. And I'll show you guys what we're going to do. So the reason we have to do this is we need to add basically some types so join monster knows how to work. And so I'm going to create a special file for this. So coming up, just new file called join monster metadata. And then this join monster adapt we're going to actually import our join monster metadata. And this is going to have everything that join monster needs. Join monster metadata. And do join monster adapt, passing in our schema right here. Make sure you do it after it's been executable, made executable. And then we pass in our metadata. And casing does not match. Oh, here we go. So in our metadata here, we are going to add some stuff. So we're just going to export default an object. So that's all the metadata is, just like some stuff to tell, you know, how to work. And this is what it looks like. So for us, a very basic one is going to be board. And all I'm going to say is the table name that board is associated with. And we're going to copy this query. So board, I can say what the SQL table is. We're going to get the query too as well. So SQL table is named boards and unique. You also need to supply a unique key. So that is ID for us. And then query fields. So I want to make a get board query. And this query is going to have a where clause. And for this where clause, we are going to do, this is empty. We'll have the board ID here. And yeah, actually, yeah, just need the board ID. Okay, so here we're going to say table ID.id. And this table is going to be what we put for our SQL table, which is boards. So we're going to get boards.id, and we're going to set it equal to board ID. And then in our resolvers here, we are going to create a get board resolver. So parent, and then the args is going to be the board ID. And we can just keep the args here. And then here we're going to have models, that's fine. This is our SQLized model, so we'll actually run the query. And this is called info. And we actually need this info for join monster. And now I'm going to import join monster from join monster. So I'm going to run it. Oops. That's just because we didn't finish typing this out. So I'm going to run join monster here. It takes info as the first parameter. Second parameter is any kind of variables you want to pass to it. For us, we're going to pass args. So the args we pass there will actually go to the where clause here. And this where clause is going to be turned into SQL, as you guys will see. And the last one is what join monster does is it actually doesn't execute the SQL for you, but what it does do is create the SQL, and then you can do whatever you want with it. So then that allows us to do models.SQLize.query, and we can actually do a raw query here. And we can move this up. And I want to move you down so this is easier to see. There we go. So SQLize.query, passing in the SQL. And the thing about SQLize is it passes in a bunch of junk. There's like a bunch of metadata tags and whatnot that they pass in when you do a query. So I like to get rid of that because I don't need it and it's just bloat. So you can do this right here. So in case you don't need metadata, which we don't, you can do this, pass into your query. So there we go. And the SQLize we're getting from our model. Okay. So let's just recap what this is doing. So our getBoard function, and this is a resolver. This is going to resolve this getBoard here. It takes in board ID as the argument. So we get that here. We're passing that to the args to join monster. It's going to take the information in the args to generate SQL for us, and then we're going to actually run that query and pass the results back. So that's it. I think the query is good to go. I am going to come over here. This is our backend. I just want to make sure there weren't any errors there. And I'm going to come to GraphQL, and I'm going to try doing a query, say getBoard. And I think I have to refresh because I don't see it here. So getBoard, passing in a board ID of 1. And cool, it's null. And I just want to show you, let's move this over here so we can see it better. So this is the SQL that we ran. Select getBoard.id as ID. And you'll notice what's cool about this, and we said getBoard where ID is 1. If I did 2, it would do it for 2. Right? The cool thing about this is it's not selecting all the fields for getBoard. So it saves you that. It's not doing a join or anything. But like, if I did getBoards.name, you'll notice the select query now grabs the name as well. Now, the thing about this is, the getBoard is if we want to get our section suggestions for this, we're actually going to have to do a, so like section suggestions, which then has other stuff, right, an ID and whatnot. We'll run that. You'll notice how nothing is added here for suggestions. And the reason for that is suggestion is actually a many-to-many. Let me make sure it is. I think it's a many-to-many. If we come to our models, we can see. So board here has many suggestions. If I go to suggestions, okay, it's one-to-many. So that's fine. And the documentation here for join monster, you have to do a join to get this. So joining objects, we just need to add a SQL join that looks something like this. So I'm going to come back to my backend and our metadata here. So for boards, there's something we can do fields, and we can specify if we want to select any of the fields differently than the default. And so for suggestions, that's something we want to handle differently. So suggestions here, I would like to do a SQL join. And so for this SQL join, what I want to do is grab, we don't need any args, and the table, the user, it's not user table, it's going to be board table for us. And then this is going to be suggestion table. And here we're going to say board table dot ID is going to be equal to suggestion table dot, and I believe it's going to be called board ID. And this is the field in our database, so I'm just going to go to pSQL connect. Ooh, what did I call this? Database. Baklava. Cool. So baklava, select all from suggestions. Okay, so we have a board ID, so that's perfect. So grab the board ID. Board ID here matches up with the board ID in our database. For suggestions, we're going to make sure these match. Okay, so now it'll actually do a join. I don't think it'll actually do the join right now because we don't have any. Oh, did we break something? Okay, just taking a second to start up. I don't think it'll actually show the join code here. That's because there's no boards. But if there were boards, it would. So let's actually create a board, which I'm actually going to just do in pSQL. So I'm going to say insert I think I think it's just like this. Let me do select all from boards. I first need to connect to, not falafel, to baklava. Select all from boards. So I want to insert name's going to be board, first board. First board. I don't know if double quotes works, but we're about to find out. And the owner is going to be 1. And I don't think I have to worry about adding these fields. We'll see if this breaks. And 2 boards. I think I broke it. Yeah, doesn't like the double quotes, I think. Still no. What is it not like? Insert into boards values, maybe? I forgot my syntax for PostgreSQL, guys. Still doesn't like it. But now what it doesn't like is that first character. See how it doesn't like that? Okay. I don't know how to do this. I forgot what my syntax is for that. I thought it'd be easier to just insert it that way. Let's just run the mutation. Let's make sure the mutation works. It's gonna be in our resolvers, create mutation. Or not create mutation, create board. Alright, yeah, we'll just run create board. So I'm gonna copy this. Mutation, create board. Owner is gonna be 1, name is gonna be first board. Not authenticated. I'm gonna get rid of the requires admin. That way we can actually run it. And run this guy again when it comes back up. Cool. So now if I do a fetch on 1, a load of undefined. Okay, so we are, we just need to come back here to board. We don't need to do data loader stuff anymore. Okay, now run that guy again. GetBoard.suggestions does not exist. User. Okay, we can get rid of this and we can get rid of this. The reasons we can get rid of those is because, the reason we can get rid of those is because we're going to do one query with join monster. And we don't need to like do the subqueries that we were doing. Okay, I just got rid of those and it's still not liking it. Am I doing getBoard? I'm doing getBoard. I'm getting the suggestions. So the reason it was not working before is because we were calling other code after. GetBoard.suggest. Okay, now the column getBoard.suggestions does not exist. So we can see the SQL that it's actually running here. So it's doing getBoard.suggestions. So that means our metadata here is not working because we told it suggestions is supposed to do a SQL join, and it's not. Suggestions, and did I spell suggestions right? Suggestions. And we have suggestions here. Whoa. Alright, let's put these right next to each other. Oh, wait, they are right next to each other. Okay. Oh wait, I wanted to switch it over here, that's what I was doing. Okay, so the suggestions, the field should match up. Boards matches up. Suggestions should match up with suggestions here. It does. It should be doing inner join. So let's go back to this and make sure we're doing everything right. Fields is an object. SQL join, user table type. There's going to be a comment. Suggestions. In our schema, maybe, is it called something different? No. Suggestions, which is an array of suggestion. Okay, don't know what the heck is going on with join monster. I kind of just want to restart the server, and maybe some wonky happened. And now when it starts up, it'll just work. Because it should be reading the fields suggestions and be like, oh, we need to do a SQL join. And it's not running the join on it right now. So, no, it's still trying to do this get board. So boards, it's not even running that. Our where is happening correctly. Like, oops, come back over here. If I were to get rid of suggestions, I think this works. Yeah, see how first board pops up? There's just something wrong with our SQL join. So let's just, I believe they have a demo. Let's make sure ours matches up exactly. So their user, they have fields, and inside of fields, they have posts, and then they do a SQL join. Oh, I'll tell you what's wrong, guys. We just need to do suggestion. We just need to put what the SQL table is. We didn't say which table this was. So suggestions, and then the unique key is an ID. All right, now I think it's going to work. I forgot we had to do that. Okay, so this is a new error. Suggestion.boardID does not exist. And the reason for that is right here. SQLize does not SQLize, PostgreSQL does not like camel case. You have to wrap it in quotation marks. Let our server restart. And bam, we have 0 suggestions. And we can look at the SQL that it ran. You'll notice did a left join, grabbed only the ID. But if we wanted, oops, come back over here. If we wanted to get the text of the suggestion, it would run left join suggestion.text, whereas up here it did not grab the text of suggestion. So cool. Our get board is all set up. Is our create suggestion set up? I think it is. So we can copy this, and we need to do query. We can do board ID, $, is going to be a int. So now we can go back to our front end and do some front end work, because now our back end is all set up, I believe. So we're grabbing the ID, the name, the suggestions. I think that's all we need. So yeah, come back over here. This is the front end stuff. We can actually fill in. I think if I just paste in this to get board, I think we're good to go. I think everything, if we did everything correctly, we should see something render. Okay, we did something wrong. Cannot read name of undefined. This props dot get data. So board. The reason for that is we need to do data dot. That's just what the convention of GraphQL calls it. Now, let's take a look at this. Refresh. Alright, still undefined, so what I'm going to do is do a console.log of this.props. Just to confirm what we have in there, because that's what I expect it to be called, but it could be something else, I guess. Okay, so board ID, so props is an object. Okay, so I've actually never seen this before. We have mutate here, we have data. Our board ID is here. This is weird. Okay, so we should expect the ID, the name. Oh, the board ID is just what our query was. That's good. Data, oh, it's still loading, and when it's loading, it crashes. Okay. So we just need to have a default value, it looks like. So index, get board. Alright, so I'm going to keep that. I'm going to say name is equal to an empty string, and suggestion is equal to an empty array, just so I can make sure everything else is in order. And I'm going to comment out. This does work. I'm going to go ahead and make these defaults. Alright, so that rendered. Alright, so get board is now here, but here it is not, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say, I can do a check if it's loading. This.props.data.loading, right? I think it was. This.props.data and then loading. So if loading is true, console.log, we can return null. We could add a spinner. We'll do that later. We'll just say loading. And then when we get data, we'll go ahead and grab it here. So now we'll refresh. So it's loading, it pops up here. We see the name of our board, first board. Then I'm going to write a suggestion 1. I hit enter. It runs our mutation. This.mutate is not a function, and we error out. Okay. Should be this.props. Okay. Rerun that. Let it refresh. And also, in our on submit, we need to pass in the e object, so we can say e.prevent default. And what that does is it just stops, the page will reload if you don't do that, just because that's how forms are supposed to work in HTML. Okay. Loading pops up. First suggestion, hit enter. Alright. I've never seen this error before in my life. Failed to execute post message on window update. Could not be cloned. Failed to execute. Okay, so we have something wonky happening in our update, and that could just be because of this. We're going to do some console logs. So data.createSuggestion, I'm just going to call, so so I'm going to call this new data. and we'll say data is equal to new data. And I'm going to console.log new data to make sure it is what I think it is. And there is, oh, this should be suggestions. Why did I say sections? And I also want to console log data. Now rerun this. S1. Okay, same error. I wonder if the mutation is even being called. I'm not sure if it is. So I'm going to comment this out. I mean, async E. Yeah, it is mutation that's messing stuff up. Okay. So const response, we're awaiting this mutate. Console.log update. It could be the optimistic response. Create suggestion. I don't see anything here that would mess stuff up. All right, we have loading. Oh, I think I know what the error could be because we're returning null here possibly. And then that's just breaking everything when this goes to loading. So what I will do is I'll set the name to this. Well, I'll say if this.props.data.loading. I didn't need to retype that if statement. I don't know why I just did. We'll say let name is equal to this. Let suggestions is equal to an empty array. And then if we're not loading, we'll actually set it. We'll say const getBoard is equal to this dot props dot data, and we'll say name is equal to getBoard dot name, and suggestions is equal to getBoard dot suggestions. Okay. So now we shouldn't crash when it's loading, but we should also not be returning null and then just like getting rid of the form. Okay. What I want to try is to make sure our mutation is not the problem. So, oh guys, I have this inside of variables. There we go. That's your problem. That was just a silly mistake. It should be outside. So S1, hit enter. This is much better. So we're actually getting to update now. Can't find field get board on object root query. Oh, we need to pass in variables for this read query. So how are we going to do that? Read query. So I'm thinking Apollo client read query. Maybe this function you can pass variables into it. And if so, we can actually pass in, because okay, I don't know if you guys saw what the error was. So the error was can't find field get board, and we need to pass in get board with the ID that we want. So what did I say it was? Read query. Yep, variables, cool. So variables board ID is equal to this dot props dot board ID. So let's try this again, see how far we get. do S2. Alright, so we get here, push is undefined, so suggestions may not exist. So get board, so it's going to be new data dot get board dot suggestions was how that worked. And then yeah, that might work a little bit better. Do S3. Last thing that broke, GraphQL field create suggestion argument creator ID of type int is required but not provided. Oh, I forgot to fix that in the backend. So in our schema here, we should not, when we do create board, create suggestion, we should not have to pass in the creator ID, board ID. We should just know what that is based on auth tokens, which we're passing in hopefully. So that'll be in our resolvers, create suggestion. So there'll be a user here we can grab. So dot 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 args, and then creator ID is equal to user.id. So just expanding the args that were passed to us and then adding another one, the ID, which we're getting from the user here. Right. Now we're going to rerun this. S1 cannot read property ID of undefined. Okay, so we're not properly passing, oh, that would be our fault, or the front end's fault, because we're not passing in authentication tokens. So optimistic UI, there's going to be a authentication section, and yes, we want to do this. So in this network interface that we have, we want to apply some middleware, and we can get rid of these comments, and we're going to say headers dot, I like to call it X token. X usually is for, means custom, and this is our custom header, so I do it like that, and then refresh token. So pass both those in, which we're getting from local storage, which we have because we logged in. And anything else? Reformat everything. Local storage is not defined, that's fine. This is global. Let's fix that in our ESLint real quick. Globals, we can say local storage. All right, let's run that again. So S1, and still same thing, ID is null. So let's come into our backend now. Make sure we're actually properly reading these in. So this is our add user. So I'm looking for X token. I'm verifying. I should be adding a user. So let's see. What is getting run here? Select ID, username is admin, created at from users as users. Cannot read property ID of null. Oh. Our token has a null in it, I think. So I'm just going to decode our tokens and make sure they actually have an ID in it. Because notice what this is, it's trying to fetch null, which it should not be doing. So something went wrong. Pass our token in here. Yeah, look, our user does not have an ID. Okay. So let's fix that. So when we log in, we want to pass that in. So auth here. So try login. So find one, yep, create tokens. We're passing in our user here. If it's valid, where ID is equal to localauth.user ID. There we go. That should be user ID like that now since we fixed it to be camel case. And then in our tokens here, we're passing is admin and all that jazz. Okay, I think we're good now. To test this out, I'm gonna log back in. And then hopefully when I decode the token now, it'll actually have stuff in it. So Bob at Bob, submit, copy, and our user is still blank. And let's see if the user is blank for this one too. And it is. So this is that. This is try login. Okay, so we're trying to find the local auth where the email was given to us. If not, that's fine. I'm going to do console.log localauth to see what we're getting back. Then we find a user. I'm going to console.log the user. And console.log auth stuff. So these should be getting called, and then create tokens here just grabs the ID from the user and stuff. So that should be pretty basic. So run that. Went off, okay. Okay, so auth stuff. So we're getting the ID. We have an email. Okay, so auth stuff, the first thing we're printing is local auth. Email, and okay, I know what the problem is. In our resolvers, in our register, user ID is no longer camel case or snake case. So now I need to this user has actually been corrupted. So we can't use Bob anymore. I'm gonna have to register as a new user. Should probably delete. Yeah, I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna drop the database real quick. So force equal true. Let it save. Let it reload. So we just drop the database. Get rid of that. And now I can recreate a user. So I'll go to register. I'm going to recreate my Bob user. Bob at bob.com, Bob. Submit. Good. Log in. Bob at bob.com, Bob. Submit. Nothing to see in console, but if I were to take this token and decode it here, we should see user stuff. And we do with an ID. So alright, we're in action. So now if I come back here and I create a suggestion, we'll see if it pops up. Oh, we dropped the database. So yeah, we need to recreate our first board. Create board, owner is 1, name is first board. So now we can reload and it should not crash. And now S1, new error, name of, cannot read property name, get board. So it's undefined. Alright, that's interesting. So that's our server code. Here's our front-end code. So our board here. This stuff, you'll notice console is actually not even being, these are not getting console logged, I don't think. Actually, JK, they are, but they are working too. So I'm going to get rid of them then if that's all good. And here I'm going to say console.log this.props.data. Not sure why getBoard is undefined. If it's not loading, it should be there. Oh, unless we're getting an error. Could be getting an error. We're about to find out though. Oh, guys, check out S1's here. S2. Hey, we see S2 here. But, yeah, that's variables. For whatever reason, getBoard is just not here. That's weird. Loading is false. Refetch. Everything looks fine. Query getBoard. I'm going to say maybe I need to pass in variables to write query. I probably do. Board ID is equal to this dot props dot board ID. Okay. Because it's getting created correctly. It's just after that, it just like craps out. So S3, hit enter. Same thing. I don't understand why that disappears. Getboard's just gone. It's there and then it's gone. Because look, we're printing it here. Getboard is there. It has an array of 3 suggestions. Oh, this is why. Missing field text. So we're just breaking it. This is fine. We should just read our warnings more. So to fix this, we need to go to our query here. Good. Our mutation. We actually need to grab the text when we're mutating. All right. So S4. Aha! Everything. I was getting so excited because I thought it worked, and then it just didn't. I fixed the mutation so it returns text now. Missing field text and ID text. But I just want to make a point about optimistic UI. Watch as I am typing this. So you guys see how there's an error, but you'll notice how when I type it, it instantly pops up there. That's because of optimistic UI. Okay, looks like the server was just slow to refresh because now there's no errors. Now we're working good. Alright, so now I can add all the suggestions that I want. Cool. So I want to also clear when we type that. Type our suggestions, so that's going to be in our board here. But the optimistic UI just makes it look like pop up really fast. E.print. So we're going to wait. Actually, you know what? I'm going to instantly, we can instantly clear this dot. So let's get the value of text first. Text is equal to this dot state. Now I can say this dot set state. Text is equal to emptiness. And then here we can just use text. And here we can use text. And const response. Oh, is it because we're not using this? Or is it? Oh, okay. And we actually don't need a response here. We can just await it. Now if I do S8, oops, so S8, we broke it. Text, text, text is equal to this dot take, oh, this is going to be suggestion. So text is equal to suggestion. And text is equal to suggestion. Forgot I named it suggestion, not text. Okay, so S8. So that pops up here. This did not change though. So this dot set state text. Oh, that should be suggestion. So now hopefully when I type this and type and add a new one, it'll go blank and nice. So S10. So I can just add as many suggestions as I want, and then they pop up. Cool. That took a while. But we got that. That's sweet. most of the time was me just fiddling around with getting, trying to pick what card view I wanted to do or whatever. But cool, I think this is a good stopping point right here, getting the board set up. So I will put this code on GitHub here. I'll push it up, and I don't know what I want to do next with this. We're definitely going to have to do some CSS of some sort to make boards, so you can have boards, multiple boards on a single page, not just one. So maybe we'll work on that. We need to be able to create boards too. Right now we're just creating suggestions. So that needs to be done. Maybe I need to do a voting function for these two. There's lots of stuff to do. More GraphQL will happen next video. But that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.